Ryan Reynolds has smiled through every red carpet, every date night, every carefully staged photo since the Baldoni case ended. But according to people close to the couple, that smile is starting to crack behind closed doors, and the marriage everyone assumed was untouchable might be the biggest casualty of this entire scandal. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what insiders say is happening behind those photos, and why some people close to the couple believe this could be the beginning of the end. Here's what's happening. For over a year, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have been front and center in one of Hollywood's messiest legal battles, the fallout from It Ends With Us, and Blake's dispute with director and co-star Justin Baldoni. Through sexual harassment allegations, a $400 million countersuit, leaked texts, and a very public settlement, Ryan has stood by Blake's side the entire time. In public, that support has looked rock solid, matching outfits, hand-holding, playful social media posts. But according to sources speaking to entertainment outlets, what's happening away from the cameras tells a very different story. And now, with the legal battle technically over, people close to the couple say the real toll is only just becoming visible. Let's start with what's actually been reported. Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni settled their lawsuit in May, just 2 weeks before the case was set to go to trial. That timing alone tells you something. This wasn't a calm, planned resolution. It was a last-minute decision to step back from the brink after over a year of court filings, leaked text messages, and dueling public statements. A judge later ruled that Baldoni's side would have to cover Blake's legal fees, and Blake's team has publicly framed that outcome as a clear victory, pointing to it as proof that the retaliation she alleged was taken seriously by the court. Ryan and Blake have used that ruling as their cue to move forward publicly, stepping out together multiple times since the settlement, appearing relaxed, affectionate, every bit the united front. They've been seen on date nights in New York, smiling for photographers, holding hands, doing all the things a couple does when they want the world to see that everything is fine. On the surface, it's worked. Plenty of fans have looked at those photos and concluded exactly what the photos were designed to suggest, that the hard part is over and Ryan and Blake are simply picking their life back up where they left off. But according to a source who spoke to Heat World, that public ease is largely a performance. The source described the couple as being seen putting on this over-the-top show of being fun and carefree for the cameras, while behind the scenes, the year-and-a-half-long legal war has left a mark that isn't easily undone. The same source pointed out that even the legal win hasn't fully landed the way the couple hoped it would, noting that people around them aren't fully buying the celebratory framing because everyone close to the situation knows how difficult the road here actually was. In other words, the people closest to Ryan and Blake, the ones who saw what the last 18 months actually looked like day to day, aren't reacting to the settlement news the way the public is. They know there's a difference between winning a legal argument and actually recovering from what it took to get there. It's worth being clear about what this is and isn't. This isn't a confirmed statement from Ryan or Blake themselves. Neither has spoken publicly about strain in their marriage, and neither is likely to, given how private they've historically kept the actual mechanics of their relationship, even while being publicly affectionate. This is insider reporting, the kind that comes from people who say they're close to the couple's circle, filtered through entertainment outlets that specialize in exactly this kind of behind-the-scenes access. But it's reporting that's now showed up across multiple outlets, which is usually a sign that there's at least some truth being reflected, even if the full picture is more complicated than any single account can capture. When the same characterization, exhaustion behind a brave public face, keeps surfacing from different angles, it tends to mean there's something real underneath it, even if the exact details are still being pieced together. This is where it gets more personal. According to the source, the pressure isn't just about the legal battle itself, it's about how long it dragged on and how publicly it played out. Every development in the case, every leaked text message, every court filing played out in headlines that Ryan and Blake couldn't control and couldn't escape. The source explained it plainly. Every time they think they're turning a corner, another setback lands on their doorstep. That's not the description of a couple casually weathering a bad news cycle. That's the description of a couple who have been living inside a crisis for over a year with no real break. And there's a deeper layer to this too, according to people familiar with how Blake initially viewed this entire project. Sources say that before any of this started, Blake saw It Ends With Us as a major comeback opportunity, something that would elevate her standing in Hollywood and open the door to bigger, more prominent roles. Instead, according to those same sources, it turned into what one insider called an epic fiasco that damaged her reputation and, in the process, spilled over onto Ryan as well. That's an important detail, because it reframes what Ryan has actually been supporting Blake through. This isn't just a legal dispute he stood beside her for. It's the very public unraveling of a project she was emotionally invested in, one that took her reputation down with it, and by extension, put pressure on their entire family unit. None of this has been confirmed directly by either Ryan or Blake, but when you line up the reporting, the insider accounts, the description of forced-looking public appearances, the acknowledgement that even their so-called win hasn't relieved the pressure, a picture starts to form of two people who are exhausted in a way their red carpet appearances don't show. There's also the financial dimension, which rarely gets talked about but is almost certainly part of what's weighing on them. According to legal analysts covering the case, the total cost of this litigation, across both Blake's defense and the pursuit of her fee claim, has been estimated by Baldoni's own attorney to fall somewhere between $30 and $60 million. Even for a couple as financially secure as Ryan and Blake, spending a year and a half funneling resources into a legal fight while simultaneously managing the reputational fallout is not something that just evaporates once a settlement is signed. Money aside, that kind of sustained, high-stakes decision-making, court strategy meetings, PR strategy meetings, endless conversations about what to say and what not to say, is its own form of exhausting labor that most people never see. And it's exactly the kind of grinding, unglamorous stress that quietly wears down relationships over time. To understand why this matters so much, you have to remember what Ryan and Blake's marriage has represented for years. This wasn't just another celebrity couple. They built a reputation as one of the most stable, playful, genuinely affectionate pairings in Hollywood. Their public banter, their inside jokes in interviews, the way they've publicly supported each other's careers for over a decade, all of it built an image of a marriage that felt different from the usual industry pairing, immune to scandal, solid in a way fans could point to as proof that fame doesn't have to destroy a relationship. That's exactly why this reporting has landed the way it has. This is the same couple people held up as the exception to the rule, and now, according to insiders, even they are showing cracks under enough sustained pressure. It's also worth remembering that this isn't the only relationship in Blake's life that reportedly took a hit during this period. Reports have also suggested a falling out with Taylor Swift, with some accounts claiming Blake wasn't invited to Taylor's wedding. Taken together, the picture painted by these reports is of a year that didn't just cost Blake a legal battle. It reportedly cost her some of the closest relationships in her life, and now, according to sources, it may be testing the one relationship she needed the most to stay intact. It's a pattern worth sitting with for a moment. Friendships that had lasted a decade reportedly didn't survive this year. Professional relationships within the industry were reportedly strained as people picked sides. And now, according to these newer reports, even the relationship that was supposed to be the most durable of all, the marriage, is showing signs of the same wear. If even a small part of this reporting is accurate, it suggests that the true cost of this scandal was never really about the legal fees or the settlement terms. It was about the slow, compounding erosion of the support system Blake would have needed to get through something like this in the first place. And Ryan, by staying at the center of that support system the entire time, absorbed a version of that erosion too, one that had nothing to do with the courtroom and everything to do with simply being the person standing next to her through all of it. And once you start looking at it that way, the stakes here go far beyond a single lawsuit. For Ryan, the calculation has always seemingly been simple: stand by his wife, no matter what the headlines say. But standing by someone through over a year of sustained public scrutiny is not the same as standing by them through a single bad week. Every time the case resurfaced, a new filing, a new deadline, a new dollar figure attached to legal fees, it reportedly reopened the same wound. Did either of them really believe this would be over quickly? Did they expect the case to fade from headlines the moment the settlement was announced? According to the reporting, it hasn't faded at all. If anything, the fee dispute that followed the settlement kept the story alive well past the point either of them likely wanted it to be. For Blake professionally, the stakes are just as real. The project she reportedly hoped would reposition her as a leading voice in Hollywood instead became the most publicly scrutinized controversy of her career. She has one upcoming project, an action comedy she's also producing, and how audiences respond to that will say a lot about whether this scandal follows her professionally the way insiders fear it might. And for the marriage itself, the stakes are the most human of all. How much can two people absorb together in public before something has to give privately? The uncomfortable truth in all of this is that neither Ryan nor Blake gets the luxury of processing this privately the way most couples would. Every appearance is analyzed. Every smile is read as either genuine or performed. That level of scrutiny, on top of everything else, is its own kind of pressure, one that has nothing to do with the original lawsuit and everything to do with what happens when a marriage has to exist partly in public view during its hardest moments. Think about what that actually requires of two people. Most couples going through a stretch this difficult get to have their hard conversations in private, their bad days without an audience, their moments of doubt without those moments becoming a headline somewhere. Ryan and Blake don't get that option. Every public appearance becomes a kind of performance review, whether they want it to be or not. A chance for entertainment outlets, fans, and critics alike to decide, from a handful of photographs, whether the marriage looks real or strained. That's an enormous amount of pressure to carry into what should be the most private part of anyone's life, and it's worth asking how sustainable that is over the long run, especially layered on top of everything the legal battle already put them through. There's also the question of timing. The Baldoni case is technically resolved, but the fee dispute, the back and forth over exactly how much Baldoni's side owes Blake, is still working its way through the courts, with a response deadline that came and went in the middle of July. That means even as Ryan and Blake try to move forward, the case keeps resurfacing in the news, keeping the entire saga alive in the public eye, instead of letting it quietly fade the way most legal disputes eventually do. Every new filing is a new round of headlines, a new round of questions, a new reminder, for them and for everyone watching, of exactly what they went through to get here. So, what does this actually add up to? According to the source close to the couple, even the moments that were supposed to feel like relief, like the judge's ruling ordering Baldoni's side to cover Blake's legal fees, haven't fully landed as the victory they were framed to be. The source put it directly: they finally got a win when the judge ordered Justin's side to cover her legal fees, and they are really trying to frame that as a huge victory, but no one's buying that. That's a striking detail, because it suggests that even people close to the couple see daylight between how this is being publicly presented and how it's actually being felt behind the scenes. That gap between the public performance of victory and the private reality of exhaustion is really the center of this entire story. It's not that Ryan and Blake are reportedly on the verge of anything dramatic. It's that, according to those who know them, the toll of this past year and a half is real, ongoing, and not something that ends just because the legal paperwork is finalized. The lawsuit may be over. The emotional aftermath, according to insiders, is not. And that's really the reframe worth sitting with here. Most coverage of this story has treated the settlement, and now the fee ruling, as the ending, the moment where Blake finally gets her win and the couple gets to move on. But if the reporting about their marriage is accurate, the settlement isn't the ending at all. It's just the point where the legal chapter closes and a much quieter, much harder chapter begins. The one where two people who spent 18 months in survival mode have to figure out how to actually be a couple again, without a lawsuit organizing their daily lives, without a shared enemy to focus on, and without the adrenaline of an active fight to distract from whatever damage was done along the way. That transition, from crisis mode back to normal life, is often when relationships are at their most vulnerable, not their most secure, because it's the first moment either person has space to actually feel what they've been pushing through for over a year. So where does that leave one of Hollywood's most trusted couples? Ryan Reynolds has spent over a year absorbing the fallout of a scandal that was never really his, standing by Blake through every headline, every leaked text, every court filing, all while trying to keep their family life looking normal in public. Now that the legal chapter is technically closed, the real question is whether the emotional chapter closes with it, or whether the pressure that built up over 18 months of public scrutiny is only now starting to surface. Do you think this couple comes out of this stronger, or do you think the damage has already been done? Let us know what you think happens next. If you want to stay updated as more comes out about Blake, Ryan, and the aftermath of this scandal, make sure you're subscribed. This story is clearly still developing.